Bismillah. Okay, this is welcome to another episode of the Self-Reflection Podcast. I am your host. I'm your host, Umar. This podcast is sponsored by Human Appeal. Make sure you head on over to the Human Appeal Instagram page or my Instagram page, and you can donate to the people of Turkey that are suffering from the earthquake, the after damages after the earthquake, or you can go over and click on the link in my bio and support the people of Palestine. And again, I'm sure we're going to be fundraising for a lot of other causes, and you'll be able to find them on either Human Appeal's Instagram page or my own. We're going to try and burn through it today because my camera is on 37% and I did not know it was that low. But yeah, today I just wanted to talk about something that, funnily enough, I think what I wanted to talk about today is the reason why I'm even doing what I'm doing today. And it's this concept of like things that happened in your past now helping you in your future, and you needing your past in order to become the person that you needed to become. So, and excuse me as well, I'm a little bit ill. Hello. Yeah, sorry. Excuse me, I'm a little bit ill, but yeah, we move. But yeah, so it's just the main three things I want to talk about today is one of the concepts in life that I believe fully, and we might not understand it until we have hindsight to help us realize it, is in life, your mess becomes your message. And the reason why I like that, not only because it sounds good, but your mess becomes your message. So that means all the things that you're going through in your life that right now you're looking at it and it looks catastrophic, it looks it just looks like a complete mess. What's going to happen in your life is you're eventually going to figure it out. I know it might not look like there's any silver lining or any way that life can kind of work itself out, or you can work out these problems or tribulations you're going through, but there is a way, and there is a way around it. And the thing is, the lessons you learn from the mess that is your life, when you learn how to combat that and deal with them, you then gain wisdom and knowledge. And then now you have a message to give back to the world. Oh, I went through suicide and depression. That was the mess of my life, but I came out on the other side. Now that is my message. I can almost leave breadcrumbs as to what I learned and what I discovered about myself and about depression and whatever. And now I have a message to preach to the world, to help the world, to elevate the world. And I think this is what's beautiful about community and human beings, because we're all trying to help each other. Well, we all should be trying to help each other out in this thing called life, because in you helping past versions of yourself, you will help future generations, and you will help people that are struggling with the same problems that you're going through now. Because one thing I can promise you is sometimes we feel like our problems or whatever, we're like, no, this is only for us. It's such a very unique situation. Nobody can even quantify or even... It's just like, I think like we go through negative things in our life and trials and tribulations, and we assume that we're the only people that have ever gone through this. That's why I love poetry as well, because poetry shows you that people have gone through the things that you're going through right now. And you might be going through something that you think that you can't survive, but then you read a poem from a certain poet, and maybe that poet's dead now, and you're like, wow, 20 years ago this poet was writing about how he got over his heartbreak from the love of his life. And now he's written a beautiful piece of poetry about it that also helps me understand my emotions, to then again make sense of it, because sometimes we have emotions and we don't even know how to make sense of them, and sometimes that can cause us the most pain or the most unease, because there's a within us there is spiritual or just unrest or unease, because we can't even intellectualize what we're going through. And that's why I said, someone said to me the other day, someone asked me to do something the other day, and I said no. And then I looked back at it on myself. Someone asked me to do something the other day, and I said no. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, oh, should I have helped that person then? Because but in me saying no, I had to go do something for myself that I had to do. And then I was in a bit of a headspace of oh, I don't know whether I should have helped them and kind of neglected myself and what I needed to do for myself, or and I kind of just didn't know. And then I just thought about it, and I was just in bed and just tossing and turning like I usually do because I have insomnia. But I was just thinking, and then I kind of came up with this thing, and I don't fully stand behind it, but on a general statement I do. I said, working selfishly on yourself is one of the most selfless things you can do. Because the more you raise yourself, the more you work on yourself, the more you can raise others. The more you can help others. The more you help yourself, the more you can help others. It's like that picture when there's a guy and he's stuck in a hole. Me being in the hole with you is not going to do you any good. I need to be outside of the hole. I need to be higher up if I want to help someone that's in a lower position than me at that point in their lives. And it's the same thing for just life. When we work on ourselves and when we develop skills, wisdoms, money, or whatever, you have the ability and the resources now, because you've helped yourself, to now help other people consistently. And again, it all comes down to intentions at the end of the day, because you might be saying, oh, I'm not helping this person because I need to work on myself. No, you're just being selfish. But if you know that you need to do something for yourself, like if you know you need to, I don't know, let's say you go to the gym because that's really good for your mental health. If you then now neglect the gym to go and do something for someone else that you didn't really want to do, and that because you've skipped the gym or whatever, now your mental health is in a bad state, if anything, you're doing more of a disservice to the people around you and yourself, because now you're in more of a state, and now people maybe need to check up on you and blah, blah, blah. So now instead of you helping other people, people need to help you. But yeah. And then just the final point I was saying, again, on this whole kind of premise of, again, helping yourself, and even in that mess, you find out what your kind of purpose is. I believe that a lot. I think what we struggle with in life and our negative events that we've had in our life, I think that becomes part of our message in life as well. Sorry, I'm so ill. But then, no, one of the last things I said, I was watching this video on Instagram the other day, and it made me I didn't get emotional, but it struck up emotions within me. But it said that we become the people. Yes, it said we become the people that our younger selves would have felt safe around. And then I was thinking about the man I am now, and the boy I used to be, or the man I used to be, or whatever. And I was thinking, I was like, yeah, like the person I've becoming, my younger self would have really liked me and would have needed me as well. And I think that's part of life as well, to become the person that your younger self would have needed, because there is a younger version of you out there, just maybe born in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, different family, whatever, but he still has the same worries that you had when you was a kid. And you now becoming the man that you needed when you was younger. And this is why I always say it's so important to work on yourself and to become the highest version of yourself, because the highest version of yourself serves the people in the world. If you're ever wondering what your purpose is, I guarantee on some level, whatever your purpose is, the base level of it is to serve people in whatever way it is. Even when you're, if you're a banker or if you have an entrepreneurial business or something or whatever, that is serving people. It might be serving people clothes. You might want to start a restaurant that's serving people food. all the things that your life purpose is, all the things that consist of your life purpose will revolve around serving people. So I can tell you, I can help you with one part of the puzzle. If you're thinking about what my life purpose is, your purpose revolves around serving people. So now the question is, how best can you serve the people? What has God given you? What has God put you through that has now allowed you and shaped you to become the person that can serve the most people? The first step is becoming the best version of yourself, because if you're still stuck in your mess, you don't have a message to tell anyone, because you're still stuck in the mess. You haven't dealt with it yourself. So you can't tell people how to deal with their mess when you still have yours. And the thing is, when you're going through this purpose, following your purpose authentically as well, I think that's an important part. Authentically, when you're doing it authentically, when you're authentically trying to pursue the highest version of yourself, because we find ourselves within people, and that's why we like people sometimes. Usually we see something in someone that we resonate with, and then that's when we kind of form bonds and friendships. It's kind of hard to form a bond or a friendship when someone's not being their authentic self. So if you really want to help people, you have to do it authentically so people can actually connect with you. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And the thing is, if you're putting out the wrong vibe, if you're putting on a facade, if you're not being who you are, you will always attract the wrong people in your life. The more you remove the masks that you wear, and again, you become your authentic self, God will bring the authentic people that will accept you for who you are. So the more authentic and honest you can become, the more people will usually resonate with you as well, because again, they can see that you're being authentic. Authenticity is like a thing that you know when someone's doing it, but you can't quite put your finger on what's going on. It's like, oh, I like it, but I don't know why. And again, it might even go sometimes against your beliefs, but when someone's authentically themselves, usually, again, people will accept you for that. So yeah, the whole thing of that last part was to become the person that your younger self would have needed, because there's going to be future generations, and I don't know if you're writing a book, if you're making videos, if whatever you're doing that might outlive you. All of this content that you put out, again, it could be helping future generations that you would have loved to have when you was young. Like, I kind of think to myself, like, oh, would the younger version of me, would he like watch my content? Would he have benefited from my content? Would he have like saw my page and been like, oh my God, I'm so glad I found this person. Like, this is the person I needed to kind of help me out in my life. And I think that's kind of to be honest, that's kind of where this podcast came. I don't know if I've told people, but I've always had this horrible feeling I was going to die young. Again, inshallah I don't. Inshallah I have a long life. I make dua. But I had a dream once. I think it was like a very vivid dream. I had a son, and I died, but I was still alive because I could sit. When I say I was alive, I was like, I was my soul, and I was like looking at my son's life, and my son was living a life, and there was nothing I left for him. And then, in the dream, I wrote a book, kind of like a meditations, like a Marcus Aurelius meditations. And I had a book of all my thoughts and like what I was going through, and like almost like a diary and a journal. And then he found it, and it was like, that's how he learnt who his dad was. And again, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I'm going to start a podcast, a self-reflection podcast. And it's going to be for if I died early and my son didn't know who his father was, I wanted him to know some of my beliefs. And so again, he might disagree with me or whatever, but again, almost like a way of us communicating, which I know it sounds a bit weird, but that's kind of where this idea birthed from anyway. Again, I wanted to do it anyway because I wanted to put my logical thoughts somewhere, but I remember the real push came after that dream, and that's when I was like, oh no, I'm gonna do this because it would be nice. But inshallah I don't die young. Who knows? But yeah. But anyway, that was the reason why. yeah. Anyway, I'll see you on the next episode of the Self Reflection Podcast. That kind of went a bit south. I did not expect to admit that on this podcast. But yeah, there's many reasons why I've started this podcast, but that was one of the main ones. Yeah, that was one of the main ones. That dream and that thought, and then the Anyway, I'm going to go. Assalamu alaikum. I'll see you on the next episode.